All right. Well, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Sarid, and nice to meet you, Astrid. We'll get started, even though we have less people than we expected. We had some issues with the password, and we hope that people can join us a little bit later today. But I'll start off by introducing myself. We have Astrid from Madrid, Spain. Sorry, on Facebook. Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Sharon. I'm a mental performance coach. I work mainly with leaders in high-stakes environments. And for me, CBT was a game changer, both personally and when it comes to my coaching, of course. So I'm in a bit of a mission to bring it into our community and to make sure that people in the coaching world are exposed to this amazing tool that's so aligned with what we're doing. With me is David. David is a psychotherapist. He is a CBT trainer. He's worked with therapists, with coaches, with other practitioners and professionals, teaching them CBT tools for over a decade. And I'll let you, David, talk a little bit about your experience with clients.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. Usually in my day-to-day life, I teach CBT and have clinic. I work with a variety of people. It can be someone with depression and anxiety, but also with people with different patterns who would like just to make a change in their life. I believe some of my clients, maybe could be some of your clients, people who deal with procrastination, maybe emotional eating, anger management, just different kind of patterns that doesn't make any benefit for them anymore, and they like to create a change in their life. And I think today that will be the topic we're going to talk about. How can we create a change? And sometimes we know that insight is not enough. So that will be for today, and I believe it's going to be interesting, and I'm very excited and happy for that.
Thank you, David. So today we're going to talk about that painful truth that sometimes we work with a client, we could have the best session, lots of insight, maybe even a breakthrough. There's a lot of excitement. We leave the session with some action items, only to roll back into the next session and learn that nothing much has changed. And it could be that the client comes back with the exact same topic, or maybe they came back with a different topic, but you can kind of sense that there's an underlying pattern, something that's reoccurring, that the real problem hasn't really been addressed. I'm assuming that if you're here, this resonates with you, but just so we kind of get to see who's in the room, if you don't mind, either by raising your hand or chiming in, going off mute, or writing in the chat, who's encountered that in their coaching? Shana, yeah, nice to meet you, Shana. Thank you for joining. So yeah, definitely. And the thing is that this doesn't say anything about the coaching process itself. Being stuck in these patterns, in this loop, is actually a very normal human behavior, and we're going to address that today. On the contrary, I would say that if you're here and if this resonates, then you're experienced enough and you care enough to try and take that one step deeper. Does anybody want to share a situation like that? And maybe you can drop in the chat what kind of topics your clients have been stuck with. And if anybody wants to share and is willing to unmute themselves and tell us, just give us an example of when you found yourself stuck with a client like that. Not just clients, see yourself. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. This is why it's human behavior, right? It's not just about our clients. It's not something that's wrong with them or wrong with us. It is just a normal way of humans to be. Can anybody give an example when they were stuck with something or their client was stuck with something, even though there was insight?
I can go. Sorry for my voice again. I can give a situation of a current client that I've been working with managers, leading them in their leadership, supporting them. And I have this manager, which I've been working with him for some quite time now. And it seems that he's a very talented and very professional manager. But it seems when he has to make a difficult conversation with his one of his employees in the team, it seems that he knows what he needs to say. He knows the problems that the employee has, but still, when it comes to the real time, to the real business, to tell them, to give them the feedback, it seems that he has a very difficult time to say, and he goes in loops and just soften the conversation, or maybe delay it to another time. And it seems that it happens more than one time, several of times, and in the end, he's stuck, and it makes it very difficult for the environment of the day to day. He takes on himself the work of the employee instead of giving him the feedback. Um, I hope that that's a good example.
Yeah, it's a good example. We actually have a similar example that we're going to talk about today because I've had a very similar situation with a client, and the whole thing about delegation and doing the work instead of the client when you do coaching in the business world, that comes up quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of when the client knows the pattern, right? He sees it, he's aware of it, but very often knowing the pattern is not the same as knowing how to change the pattern, right? And that's what we're going to focus on today.
Mhm. So definitely this is a common issue, and we have the understanding that sometimes the insight is not enough, and knowing the pattern is not the same as knowing how to change the pattern. But with your permission, I would say that before we can create a change, sometimes it's not enough to know the patterns. I believe that the first stage will be to understand what maintain the pattern. Okay, not only to understand the pattern, but to understand that something maintain the pattern. And usually we look on the pattern as a problem. It's an issue that we need to solve. Our client came with an issue, this is the problem, and now how can we solve the problem? And with your permission, I would like to offer us a different point of view. What if the pattern is not the problem? What if the pattern is the solution? What if the pattern is the best solution that the person or the brain found in order to deal with the trigger? Think about it for a second. We have different experience in our life. Somehow we repeat doing over and over again the same behavior. Maybe there is a reason for that. And if we're going to understand the reason for that, then maybe we can start to create a change. If I think, for example, about someone who's supposed to do a presentation, and then when he's about to do the presentation, let's say that he feels a lot of tension. And then in order to deal with the tension, what he chooses to do, maybe to avoid doing the presentation, he will not do it. What happened then in that particular second, in the moment that my client decide that that instead of doing the presentation, the best way he can deal with the tension is to avoid from doing it, at the same moment, he feels some kind of relief. At the same moment that my client decide to avoid doing the presentation, he feels some kind of relief, which means the person, the brain had a problem, we detect a problem, there is a lot of tension, a lot of not good thoughts about all the situation. What is my best way to deal with this situation, to reduce the tension, to avoid from doing it, or to do procrastination, or to over-prepare, it doesn't matter. But this is some kind of a solution. Now, I agree with you, that's not the best solution, and it's not helping us to change the long-term consequences of that. But the brain doesn't care about it. The brain doesn't care, it gives it only a short-term relief. This is a solution. And if this is a solution, and it's helped the brain to reduce the anxiety or the tension, there is a learning. There is a new learning. It worked one time, the brain will continue to do it. One more time, and one more time, and one more time, and this is a learning. Therefore, if we want to create a change, first of all, We need to understand that the pattern is not a problem. It's some kind of a solution. We need to learn what is the benefit, which is what maintain the cycle. And only then, after we identified it, only then we can start talking about how to create a change. Therefore, for the meeting today, we're going to have, I would say, two phases. Phase number one, to understand together through the eyes of CBC, how can we understand what maintains the cycle. Phase number two, after we understood it, then how can we create a change? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's do it by just giving an example with your permission. Let's talk about one of Sharon's clients. His name is Aaron. Sharon, would you like to represent your client?
Yeah, I'll deal with my anxiety and talk about this case. It was a very memorable situation for me because this was before I started using CBC tools, and it was a client that I was really stuck with. He was a manager at a tech company, super high achiever, type A personality, very talented guy, definitely a capable guy. He definitely had a thing about mistakes. He was very nervous about mistakes. He learned that it's unacceptable. He linked his self-worth to it. And overall, he was doing good at his job, but he had a thing, and it's a little bit similar to what you said, Sarit, specifically in executive meetings, he would just clam down. He would get to those meetings and he just could not talk. And it's not because he didn't have anything to say. It's not because he didn't understand what the situation is and the importance of him talking up. And he kept getting feedback that is showing up as unconfident, uninfluential. And that really, really, really bothered him.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he'd bring it to the session, we felt like we were going a little bit back in circles, right? Because he would get out of the session, understanding what he needs to do. He would have a plan in his head. He would understand the importance, and he'll come back in the same session, the next session with the exact same problem. I can tell you, for me, that was a very frustrating experience. Some of the thoughts I had in my head were, what am I doing wrong? Right? What's wrong with the coaching? Why are we not getting somewhere? Maybe I'm not the coach for him. It kind of stirred up anxiety in me. I can still kind of feel it a little bit now when I'm talking about it, even though it's been a little bit of a while. Because I really felt like I was failing this guy. I remember showing up to the meetings and being tense myself. And eventually I did tell him that I think that we're not really going to where he wants to go. And I suggested that he go find a different coach, which is a big feeling of regret, because if I had the chance of working with him today, it would be completely different. But that's the case that we're going to bring up today.
Okay, thank you for sharing this with us, Sharon. And yeah, and sometimes I think it's not easy for us as a coaches or therapists that work with people to find ourselves in that end, and we have the insight, but we're not sure exactly what we want to do. So today we would like to share with you a different point of view that I believe can really help you to look on things in more in a different way, just to organize yourself, the whole situation, the pattern, and hopefully to take it from there and to make a good step for change. So if you're going to look on Aaron, he's 42 years old, and I would like together with you to create a map of the inner world of Aaron. Okay? So in CBC, Sharon, can you show us the map, please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So if you want to understand the pattern, if you want to understand why Aaron keep doing the same thing over and over again, okay, we have some kind of, we call it formulation. It's a map which includes 4 dimensions. As you can see, it's including the thoughts of Aaron. It will include the emotions, the body sensation, and the behaviors. These 4 dimensions, they are the dimensions which through them, Aaron and each one of us experience the reality out there. There is some kind of trigger, some kind of reality out there. Each one of us responds to this reality in a different way. We have different thoughts about the reality, and the reality out there create different emotions inside ourselves, create different body sensations, and of course, each one of us behave in a different way. If I take all these 4 dimensions, this is what creates our experience as a human being. Now, usually when something happens, when there is a trigger, it happens so fast. Like in 1 second, there's different thoughts crossing our mind. Our emotions, sometimes it's hard for us even to recognize what we feel, our body sensation, and automatically we react. Yeah, automatically it's happening in 1 second. And in order to understand what maintain the cycle, we have kind of to zoom in and just to take it step by step. Usually we do it with our clients because I don't know what Aaron's thoughts are and I will not determine them. So when I create the map, I create it together with the client. I explain to him or to her why we create the map. And together we share the information, and it must to make sense not only to myself as a coach, but also to my client. I will say generally about CBC that we work together with the client. We can have some assumptions, we can ask questions, but we believe that the insights and the understanding and the answers coming from inside of the client. And we are there just to guide him, to help him, and to go together with the path. So if I ask you, let's think about Aaron. Put yourself in his condition, in his situation, and try to maybe to think what kind of thoughts cross his mind.
Before we go to the thought, David, maybe we should just explain that sometimes the client will come with a very specific trigger in mind. He will say, this event triggered me, and then we'll create the map around it. Sometimes he will come with the pattern. He comes like, when these things happen, this is how I react. And then we want to put it back to one event so we can analyze that event and then learn from that and then go back to the big picture. So when we are doing this formulation map, we're actually doing it in a very specific event. So we help the client flush it out.
Mhm. Thank you for that. That's very important point, Sharon. So we have a trigger. During a leadership meeting, Aaron's manager asks several challenging questions about a project and points out some weaknesses. Now, I want to remind you that maybe John, his friend, it doesn't mind at all. It's not even a trigger for John, but for Aaron, it's a trigger. Now, put yourself in Aaron's mind. What do you think? What kind of thoughts crossed his mind? What he might think?
You guys can throw it in the chat. You can just unmute yourself. And what are some of the thoughts that you think Aaron might have when he encounters this situation?
Maybe that the boss is looking at him as somebody who's to blame.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, maybe now I'm to blame, or maybe I did something wrong.
Thank you, Shana. I'm a fraud as well. Thank you, Sarit. Thank you, Shana. I'm a fraud. I'm to blame.
Yeah, so this is typical, we call it in CBC automatic thoughts. This is the typical thoughts that cross our mind. It can be something like, I'm not prepared enough, everyone can see I'm failing. Now, I want to remind you that these thoughts, they are not the reality, they are not the truth, but it doesn't matter. These are the thoughts that cross Aaron's mind, and he will react to these thoughts. And this happen in half a second, even less than that. And because of these thoughts, and because of the situations, it's not only the dimension of thoughts that there's something happening there. Also from the emotions point of view, Aaron feels something. Now put yourself in Aaron's shoes in this situation and try to imagine what kind of emotions coming up in Aaron's right now. What does he feel? What kind of emotions?
And I'll give you a hint. Emotions are usually in one word, right? Shame, exactly. Fear.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Okay. It can be an anxiety, it can be fear, it can be embarrassment, frustration, and so on and so on. Exactly. Now we know that there is no, for every emotion, we need to feel it or to sense it somewhere in our body. There is no fear if I don't feel the fear. There is no anger if I don't feel the anger. And this is something that is very important in CBC. We always want to make sure to understand, first of all, there is emotion, then where can I identify this emotion in my body, how it looks like. So try it. Try, like body sensation. What kind of body sensation Aaron might feel?
We have in the chat shallow breath or holding the breath,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Tight chest, queasiness.
Okay, you guys are good. Exactly, exactly. Usually it will be something like that in this situation. Our client will feel some tight chest, increased heart rate, shoulders tense, exactly. This kind of body sensation. So if I'm Aaron and there is this kind of a trigger, and I have these thoughts that crossing my mind, and I have an anxiety combined with some kind of embarrassment, I feel tight chest, increased heart rate, it's not easy to hold all this phenomenon inside myself. Something in my brain doesn't want to stay in this situation. And my brain look for a solution how to decrease these emotions, how maybe to distract myself from these thoughts. And he look for something available. And what is the most available behavior for Aaron, for our friend? What he will do in order to feel some kind of relief from this body sensation, emotions, and thoughts. Try to guess. Okay, hide, escape,
Avoid.
withdraw,
Avoid.
avoid the situation. He will try somehow to avoid the situation. And by doing that, by avoiding the situation, what will happen? Why he will do it? What is the benefit of that? It doesn't make sense because this is the problem, no? Why would you avoid the situation? How
And
is
feel
it
free to
helping?
unmute yourself if you don't want to type. I see you guys typing. If you don't want to type and you just want to throw it out there, you want to avoid it so it doesn't feel burnt out. So there's a relief there, right?
Is there relief, less tension, slow
Exactly.
heartbeat
Exactly.
after it's being increased?
There is some kind of solution to the problem, and the problem is that he doesn't feel good in the situation right now. It's hard for him to be in that situation. All the system are in alert. His sympathetic system is now activate. He feel in an anxiety. Well, I'm not going to talk about physiology, but we have to understand that in this situation, what's happening in the amygdala, in the back of our brain, it's like a fight-flight situation. It's like a dangerous situation. That's how the brain recognizes the situation, and it starts to send a different kind of hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and kind of to prepare the body for fight-flight situation. For the brain, it's a real fight-flight situation, and therefore it will look for some kind of solution to reduce the tension. And how it will do it? Usually by avoiding the situation. What will be the benefit? Temporary, it will feel safer. And then we have the long-term consequences. What will happen to Aaron in the long term? What will be the consequences because of that? What will happen to Aaron's self-esteem? What happened to Aaron's goals? He want to achieve something. He want maybe to he pay price for that. What will be the price? Any ideas?
He'll be stuck.
He will be stuck, no career development, exactly. And what will happen to his self-esteem? And usually people will come to you for coaching because of the long-term consequences. That's where they feel stuck. That's why they will come to coaching. But if you ask yourself, what maintain the cycle? Why people keep doing this pattern over and over again? That will be because of the short-term relief. And every time that Aaron used this kind of behavior, when he become defensive, when he avoids speaking up, when he over-prepare, when he avoid the situation, he teach himself that this is the best way to get short-term relief. Therefore, he will use this over and over again. And this is a learning. This is the meaning of learning. When I repeat my behavior over and over again, I teach my brain, or my brain teach me, this is my strategy to deal with this kind of easiness, with the discomfort. This is how I reduce the tension. This is how I reduce the anxiety. And then what happened? The next time the same trigger will appear, my brain already have a strategy how to deal with it. And from time to time, by repeating this behavior, my learning becomes stronger and stronger. That's become a pattern, sometimes of months, sometimes of years. Now, imagine yourself, Aaron, using this kind of technique and in this pattern, maybe for a few years. And now he came to coaching. And in coaching, you have this new beautiful insight, amazing insight. And he understands the insight. And he agree with you about the insight. But then when there is a trigger, he has the insight, which is kind of fresh and new, but this insight need to compare with the learning of a years, where the brain say to himself, that's the way, this is the solution. This is how I should act in this situation. And somehow we expect that Aaron will listen to the insight and will act according to that insight, and not according to the solution that is available for himself for the last maybe few years. So just let's stay there for a second just to understand why insight is not enough. It makes sense, but it's not enough.
I want to highlight, David, real quick, what you said about the client often comes to us because of the long-term consequence, right? That's the reason that they come for us. And a lot of times, that's where our insight with them is. It's around that long-term consequence. But unless we do that map and really see what's maintaining the problem, we're just kind of addressing the symptoms. We're not addressing the real cause. And the real cause is what causes the sensation that he wants the short-term relief from. So even in the insight level, just by doing that map, our insight is way more accurate, way more pointed about addressing what really is in his way versus just addressing the symptoms, which are the long-term consequences.
And also, Sharon, when we do the map, the formulation with our clients, sometimes, I would say most of the times, it's the first time they can really see all the pattern. They can really see their thoughts. They can really understand what's going inside their brain, their mind, their body, their emotions. They understand the cycle and they see it for the first time. And usually when they see it, they take a few seconds and they say to themselves, okay, now I get it. It's like, now I understand why I keep doing it over and over again, because sometimes they don't really understand why they're doing it over and over again. And then they think they're lazy, they think they're stupid, they think they have no faith in themselves, and it's not true. It's just a matter of learning. That was the best solution that your brain had. And now we need to look for different solution, and it's not going to be easy to get a different solution. And insight will not be enough, because this behavior, we need to understand, it's not only something amorphic that happened. It's actually it's a process that happens inside our brain. Our brain is made of milliards of neurons. And whenever we're doing learning, whenever we're doing any kind of behavior, these neurons fires together. And there is a simple rule. Neurons that fires together, wires together. And every time I will do the same action and I will repeat on it, these wires, these neurons will fire together, and they will wire together stronger and stronger and stronger. And all of us know that if I start to play piano and I'm doing it for the first time, it will be difficult. But if I will play the same song for 1,000 times, I will be able to play the song. And it's the same about every behavior. That's how, as a human being, that's how we learn. And when we react to our environment, our brain defaults to the strongest connection. So if I have such a strong connection of this pattern, and then I have just this new insight, there is almost no chance that only the insight will create the change. So I would say this is the first thing, to understand how important it is to understand what maintains the cycle. What is the benefit that we get from that? If we have this, only now we can start talking about how to create a change. But I would like to stop you for a second to ask if there are any questions about it, if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense. How do you feel about it?
How does this resonate with you guys from your experience with your clients?
Okay.
David, I'd love to offer a metaphor that I heard you use in one of the classes when it comes to reinforcing behavior or learning behavior, and kind of taking the whole thing about the neurons firing and strengthening those neural pathways. Imagine we're standing in the middle of the forest and we need to find a way out of the forest. And obviously the forest full of trees, full of bushes, and full of weeds on the ground. And eventually we choose a direction and we start walking to that direction to get out of the forest. As we're walking, we're stomping on the weeds and we're creating a path behind us. So now there's a little bit of a path on the road. So if we find ourselves faced in that same situation and we look around, we're going to see that path. We know that we've walked it before. It's easier to walk because some of the weeds are stomped, and we're more likely to walk that path again. Now, if we walk that path again, we're clearing more of the road, right? We're stomping on more weeds, we're clearing more of the road. So we make it even more likely to walk that path again next time we find ourselves in that situation. And that's the behavior that reinforces itself. Every time we walk that path, we strengthen, we widen the path, we make it more clear, and then we make it more likely that we choose the same path once we're faced with the same situation. And that's what happens in our mind as well. And sometimes we don't really see the forest from the trees, right? And that case formulation, that flow chart that David did with you before, that allows us to have a map of our inner world, or a map of the forest, if we use the metaphor. And that map can show us that maybe the direction we've been going at, that path that we've been using, is not ideal. Maybe it takes us out to a different place than we want to be when we get out of the forest. Maybe it's just too long of a way. Maybe there's, I don't know, tigers and bears, whatever. We realize that that path is not ideal for us. That map can also show us the direction that would be better for us. But still, that direction is uncharted territory, right? It hasn't been walked. It's full of weeds. So to really make change, what we want to do with our client is we want to make sure that they start creating a path over there, that they walk it again and again and again until that new path is so clear and so obvious and so easy to walk that that's the path that they would choose every time they find themselves in that situation. And that is behavior change, right? That is automatic habits. So if we think about it, insight can show us the old path, even very accurate insight using the case formulation. It can show us the old path. It can direct us in a new direction that's ideal for us long term, that's better for us long term, but it doesn't create the new path. In order to create that new path, we need experience, and we need to repeat that experience over time. And that's what we call experiential training. And I'll hand it back over to you, David.
Thank you. So when we talk about experiential training, we're talking about how to create a change in all the dimensions, in all the 4 dimensions of the person. It's not enough, as we said, that we have the insight, but we need to help our client to create a new path, a new neurological path in the brain. So how are we doing it? I would say that CBT is a base evidence method with a lot of researchers from psychotherapy, from coaching, from medicine, from a business, from education, all over the world in different fields. And in CBT, what is make it so special in my eyes, that it's not only dealing only from a emotion point of view or just a cognitive point of view. It sees the person as a whole thing. It sees the all dimensions. There is a clear understanding that each one of the dimensions have an influence on the other one, and all of them create the person. And if I want to create a real change, I need to make intervention in each one of these dimensions. And one change will help me to create another one. One thing that the map give us, it also help us to create the intervention point, which means, okay, I have many clients, and many of them deal, uh, maybe many of them deal with some kind of the same issue. Maybe I have a few clients that dealing with, let's say, procrastination. But for each one of these clients, we will choose different intervention. Why? Because each one of them has different thoughts. Each one of them has different interpretation for the situation. Maybe one of them feel anxious or tension, and the other one feel embarrassment. So I might choose different intervention, and I choose this intervention together with the client. But I will explain to the client why I think we should do it, and I will ask him what he think about it or she think about it. So the map not only give me understanding of what maintain the cycle, it's also help me to diagnose and to understand what will be the best intervention point to this specific client. And then after we have the intervention, we build the program, we build the plan, and gradually we start to work according to the plan. Now, when I say to work according to the plan, it's not only talking about what to do, it's actually to do it together. I just will give an example. I work with the clients. Usually, they have some kind of a couple of clients, well, more than a few clients that dealing with an anxiety. So usually, what they will do, they will try to avoid the anxiety. Yeah. So my job will be to help them to feel an anxiety and still not to avoid from it, still to choose to do the right thing to them. So in order to do it, I will do some kind of an exposure. Or maybe I have another client that he has very, very strong automatic thoughts that really don't help him to change the pattern. Together with this client, I will explore in a curious way these thoughts. And I will help him to understand or maybe to find a better way to think about things. I will help him to remember the old truth. So, for example, a client can say, I'm stupid. I'm never going to make it, or one of these thoughts. Together, we're going to explore it and to come to a better understanding and to the reality that maybe sometimes I'm not good in these things, but I'm good in the other ones. So that can be another change. And not only we're going to do it in our sessions because we need to do some practice, because I want to remind you that the brain learns through practice. Usually, I will give some kind of assignment, homework to my client, and I will ask from him to do it towards the week, in the week. And then after a week, when he comes back to the clinic, he already practiced it for 1 week, The meaning of that in this week there was already a change. he already started to create a pattern in his brain. So most of the time, he will never come back to me in the same situation, in the same position. There will be some kind of change. And I will check with my client what worked, what didn't work, what was better, and we're going to discuss it, precise it, and continue from there. So my client can also already feel the change, maybe from the first or the second week. He already feel that he's walking the trail. And I have also to say that it's not only about the clients. Usually when I teach the CBC, I say to the people that come to learn it, listen guys, we're coming to a personal journey. We're not only going to learn theoretical information. Yes, we're going to learn different methods and techniques, but you will have to experience it on yourself. If you want to help your clients to deal with an anxiety, if you want to help your clients to deal with anger management or whatever it will be, you have to take your own pattern, and we're going to take each one of the participants have his own pattern, and during our sessions, during our study, we work on this pattern. And then the coach understand from experience how to create a change also with the clients. You have the confidence that you know how to do it, not because you read about it or you learn it, because you did it for yourself. And I believe and I know that this is make a big, big change.
I'm wondering, how does this resonate with everybody when we talk specifically about incorporating experiential training, incorporating that practice with the clients? So I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. How do you think it can bring value to your clients? Do you use it already? Is it going to change the way you work with clients in any way? And please just unmute yourselves and just share. How do you see that practice work with your clients? Yeah, the idea of small stake experiences, and that's experiments, and that's a big thing, right? We can't just jump in the water right away. We want to create those sensations of success. So we want to show them bit by bit that they can do it, and then they can take on a bigger task. You use it with somatic experiencing. Yeah, absolutely. And somatic experiencing is definitely one way to do it, and it's a way that we use in CBC quite a bit, with the idea that sometimes that's the thing that's the most appropriate to the client. And sometimes clients are less aware of their body. So we might try to help them be more aware of their body, or we might try to go through a different route, to the cognitive route, right, to the behavior route, for example.
Yeah, I like that we have a couple of angles that we can go through. The emotional, cognitive, maybe with the behavior, just to you can find the specific pattern for the specific client, not just go with one thing. Um, and that's great. It gives you more flexibility.
Definitely. Being able to see that that multidimensional approach, the four dimensions of the human experience really helps us work with a variety of clients, right? And not necessarily with what would work with us. It's not always about what would be good for me, because each client is different and experiences the world in a different way. So absolutely. And Shweta here is mentioning Atomic Habits. I love that book. Reinforcing and strengthening new neural pathways, doing it in small ways consistently. And that way we slowly but surely are changing our habits. And that's very true. There are many ways to incorporate experiential training in our coaching. I'm sure you guys are doing it in some way or another. And there's always a way to dive deeper into it, to learn more ways to adapt it and apply it into our coaching. And this is where I want to address, let me share my screen over here. This is where I want to address our program, because it is exactly what our program is about. And our program is a 40-hour continued coach education for experienced coaches. You earn 40 CCEs for it. It's accredited by the ICF. And it's designed specifically for coaching. We're adapting the CBT approach to the coaching setting. And the idea is that by the end of this program, it helps you identify the patterns, help the client explore what is the short-term relief that maintains the problem, and together with them, tailor the right intervention that fits them specifically. And it is a trial and error, right? And everybody's different. The program is 40 hours, like I said, and it includes a lot of work. It includes or requires a lot of practice. That's why we like to do it with experienced coaches too, because then you can go and practice with your clients. It definitely requires quite a bit. It's an investment, not just financially, but time and attention, which to me, I think is the more important thing. So it's not for everybody. We know that. But if you are curious about taking a deeper dive in some of the cutting edge science when it comes to human behavior and human change, then 100% it's for you. It's going to be a game changer. A lot of our graduates actually said that this was a turning point in their coaching journey. I'll share some of the testimonials. Obviously, I don't have enough room on the screen for everything, but if anybody wants a more detailed testimonials for graduates, if anybody wants to speak to one of our graduates because you're interested in how CBC education can provide value for you and your clients, I'll be happy to connect you to a graduate or at least send you what they had to say about our program. So I truly, truly believe that this is the new exciting frontier when it comes to coach education, and it's going to bring tremendous value for both you and your clients. CBT is still kind of new in the coaching space. There's some programs out there that are smaller. There's a lot of bits and pieces. There's not a lot of options that are dedicated for coaches and take such a deep dive in CBT. And you can't piecemeal it yourself. But if you go through a structured program, then you get a clear supported path that takes you all the way from understanding the principles to really confidently applying them with your clients. And I think you'd learn that it would provide both you and your clients that confidence that you're using tools that have been studied, that you're using tools that are proven to be effective. And the first thing that it does is that it increases the trust with the client. So you're starting from a different starting point with your client when you have that trust. It reduces a lot of friction. It reduces a lot of the frustration that sometimes comes with those patterns that keep reappearing. Let's see. As far as the return on investment, and we've heard this from our graduates, it affects how they show up with clients. It affects how they show up with prospective clients. There's a strong business implication as far as referrals, as far as new clients signing in. And honestly, depending on your packages, but if you sell one or two packages because your clients see that you're working with a science-based approach, then you're covering the cost of the training. But like I said, the financial cost is not the main part, really. The investment is the time that you're sitting there and learning. So how do you know if this program is right for you? First of all, we're looking for experienced practicing coaches because it does require, like anything, to roll up your sleeves and do the work. We do a lot of work on ourselves in the program, right? Because until you experience it on yourself, you can't really do it with somebody else. But then the next step is going out there and trying it with your clients. If you've been in this situation where you supported clients and they gained insight, but kept being stuck, you know what it means, then this is definitely something you want to look into. And then if you're curious about the science behind human behavior, like I am, this is going to be fascinating. More than anything, we're looking for people that are ready to learn, ready to practice, ready to kind of get their hands dirty, and are really wanting to learn and grow. Now, we intentionally didn't spend too much time in this presentation talking about the program. We only had an hour, and we did want to talk about the short-term relief and the experiential training. But if you're interested, if you're curious to see what CBC can do to your coaching, I would love to set up a call with you. You're welcome to scan the QR code or just follow this link. And I would love to talk to you, see where you are in your coaching journey, see what your goals are, and see if this is a good fit. Okay, so quick exploration call, about 10-15 minutes. I will say that our next cohort starts September 9th, and we had an early bird special that ended this week. It was a 25% discount for people who signed up early. What we decided to do is to extend it to people who schedule an exploration call today, because we do value and we are looking for people that are eager to learn. And if you're here, that already tells us something about you. So if you schedule a meeting today, if you're curious, we're going to extend that 25% discount to you. I'll go ahead and I'll put that link in the chat. But other than that, David, do you want to say anything? You're on mute, I think. You're on mute.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share this time with you and hopefully to learn something new, a different perspective about coaching, about um, um, how to get into patterns from a different point of view, and hopefully this knowledge will be available to you and you can learn it. Of course, I'm going to teach the 40 hours course, and I will be more than happy to go and do this journey with you. And I wish you a lot of success and good luck with your beautiful work that you're already doing. Thank you very much for being here today with me and with Sharon.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Super
Thank you so
excited to see
much.
you soon.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Razan, did
Okay. Hello. No, actually,